In 30 years as a funeral director, I've never had to chain a casket shut. Until last month. The family insisted. Heavy steel chains, thick locks. They watched me do it with their own eyes, standing there in complete silence as I wrapped those chains around their grandfather's casket like we were caging something. I thought it was grief. People do strange things when they're grieving. But when I asked why, the old woman just looked at me with these hollow eyes and whispered, "Because some dead, they don't stay dead." I wish I'd listened. God help me, I wish I'd listened. The call came on a Thursday morning, early. Too early for a normal death. My assistant, Maria, took the call. Her face went white as she listened. "They want to speak to you directly," she said, handing me the phone. "And sir, they sound scared." The voice belonged to an elderly woman, Mrs. Kozlov, Russian accent thick as molasses. "Mr. James," she said, "we need your help. My father, he passed last night, but we need special arrangements." I asked the usual questions. Age of the deceased, cause of death, preferred service. But she cut me off with something I'd never heard before. "You must promise me something. The casket, it must be sealed, with chains, heavy chains. And you must never open it once it's closed." In 3 decades, I'd never had such a request. I tried to explain that it wasn't standard practice, that there were regulations, but her voice became desperate. "Please, you don't understand. My father, he is not like other men. He follows old ways, dark ways. If we don't do this right, if we don't keep him contained, he will not rest." The family arrived within the hour. 7 of them, all dressed in black, all carrying the same haunted expression. They brought their own chains, thick industrial steel that looked like it belonged in a ship's anchor room, and they brought something else, a small leather pouch filled with what looked like salt mixed with herbs. "Sprinkle this inside the casket," the old woman instructed, "before you close it, before the chains." The deceased was brought in that afternoon, Dmitry Kozlov, age 89, cause of death, heart failure, natural causes. But there was nothing natural about what I saw. The body was wrong. I've prepared thousands of bodies, and you develop an eye for details. The way skin settles, how rigor mortis sets in, the color changes. But Dmitry, his skin was too pale. Not the pale of death. I know that pale. This was different, almost gray and cold. So cold that even in the embalming room, I could see my breath when I stood near him. But it was his fingernails that made me stop. They were long, too long, and sharp, like they'd been filed to points. Who does that to a dead man? I started the embalming process, but the fluid, it wouldn't circulate properly. It was like his blood had turned to ice. The veins stood out black against his gray skin, creating patterns that looked almost ritualistic. That's when I noticed the marks, scars, all over his chest and arms, old scars. They formed symbols, circles within circles, connected by lines that hurt to look at, like they were carved with precision, with purpose. I was about to call the family when I heard Maria scream from the front office. I ran out to find her backing away from the windows. "Mr. James," she whispered, "look outside. Dogs, dozens of them, strays, pets, all kinds. They were gathered in our parking lot, just staring at the building, not moving, not making a sound, just staring." "They've been there for an hour," Maria said, "ever since the body arrived." I went back to the preparation room, and that's when I saw it. The temperature gauge, it read 32 degrees freezing, but our heating system was running full blast, and the smell. God, the smell. It wasn't the usual odor of death. It was something else, something ancient, like earth that hadn't seen sunlight in centuries. I decided to finish quickly, get the body ready, seal it up, and get it out of my building. But as I lifted Dmitry to place him in the casket, his eyes opened, dead eyes, clouded over. But they tracked my movement across the room. I dropped the body, stumbled backward. In 30 years, I'd never... Dead people don't open their eyes, they can't. It's physiologically impossible, but those eyes followed me, watched me, and slowly, his mouth began to move. No sound came out, but I could read his lips, the same word over and over. Hungry, hungry, hungry. I ran from the room, called Mrs. Kozlov immediately. Something's wrong, I told her. The body, it's not behaving normally. There was silence on the other end. Then, did you seal the casket yet? No, Then you must do it now. Right now. Do not wait until morning. Do not leave the building until it's done. And whatever you do, whatever you see or hear, do not let him out. She hung up. I stood there in my office, hands shaking, trying to make sense of what was happening. That's when I heard it. Movement. From the preparation room. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone learning to walk again. I grabbed the chains the family had brought and went back to the preparation room. The casket was still open, but the body wasn't in it. Dmitri was standing by the window, his back to me, perfectly still, watching the dogs outside. "Mr. Kozlov," I whispered. He turned. His eyes were completely black now. And when he smiled, God help me, when he smiled, I saw teeth that didn't belong in any human mouth. "You should not have disturbed my rest," he said in a voice like grinding stone. I grabbed the salt mixture and threw it at him. He screamed, a sound that shattered 3 windows and sent the dogs outside howling. The salt hit his skin and began to smoke. He collapsed back into the casket, unconscious, or pretending to be. I worked faster than I'd ever worked before, sprinkled the rest of the salt mixture inside the casket, closed the lid, and began wrapping those chains around it like my life depended on it. Because I was beginning to understand. It did. The chains were heavy. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely work the locks. But I kept going. Chain after chain, lock after lock. That's when the casket started to move. Subtle at first, just a tremor. But then it began to rock, back and forth, like something inside was trying to sit up. Then came the scratching, fingernails against wood, frantic, desperate. The lid bulged upward. The chains went taut, but they held. Then I heard his voice, muffled but clear. "Let me out. Let me out. I'm so hungry. It's been so long. Let me out." I added more chains, my entire stock of chains, but the casket kept moving, kept rocking, and that voice kept pleading. "Please, I won't hurt anyone. I just need to feed, just once, please." The voice was changing, becoming more human, more sad, more desperate. "I have grandchildren. I want to see my grandchildren. Why won't you let me see them?" For a moment I hesitated. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe this was just some kind of medical anomaly. Maybe... Then the casket lifted 6 inches off the table. That's when the family arrived, all 7 of them. They'd been waiting outside all night. "Is it done?" Mrs. Kozlov asked. "It's moving," I told her. "It's alive in there." She nodded sadly. "Yes, but not the way you think. Not the way anyone should be." They helped me add more chains. Blessed chains, they called them. Chains that had been soaked in holy water and salt for 7 days. As we worked, Mrs. Kozlov told me the truth. My father made a deal long ago with something dark, something hungry. In exchange for long life, he promised to feed it, but feeding it meant taking from others. "He's been dead for 3 days, she continued, but the thing inside him, it doesn't want to let go. It wants to keep using his body, keep feeding. We finished the chains as the sun came up. The casket finally stopped moving. The voice finally stopped pleading. But as we loaded it into the hearse, I heard one last whisper. "I'll remember you." The burial was private, just the family. The casket went into the ground with all those chains still wrapped around it, 7 feet down, in a grave lined with salt and iron. Mrs. Kozlov paid me in cash, more than I'd ever been paid for a single service. But as she handed me the money, she grabbed my wrist. "Promise me," she said, "promise me you'll never dig him up, no matter what anyone offers you. No matter what excuse they give. Some things should stay buried." I promised. Of course I promised. That was 6 weeks ago. The dogs stopped gathering outside my building. The temperature in the preparation room returned to normal. Life went back to, well, as normal as life can be when you know what I know. But sometimes I drive past Greenvale Cemetery, just to check, just to make sure the grave is still there, still undisturbed. And it is. The headstone reads Dmitry Kozlov, 1934-2023, rest in peace. But the ground around it is always cold, even in summer, even in direct sunlight. And sometimes I swear I can hear chains rattling beneath the earth. Tell me, have you ever wondered why some graves are never visited? Why some sections of cemeteries feel colder than others? Why some families insist on such unusual burial practices? If you're still watching this, if you made it this far, comment the word chains below. But be careful what graves you visit, because some dead, they don't stay dead, and they remember everyone who knows their secret.